and salutations. Welcome to what is good now.
Well, looks like it's just you and me again, old friend. Oh! Greetings and salutations and all of that stuff. As much as I do enjoy the box, I've been feeling a bit like a beautiful bird who's been caged, whose feathers are just so bright. And oh, what's this? It must be for me. Well, that can only mean one thing. I've been invited to go see Calvin Von Crush, the Occult Collector, and his Museum of Horrors. Join me, won't you? To arms, men! We go to the great unknown. Well, we haven't gone into the main dungeon yet, but I wanted to give you a quick look at Leonard and Sheldon, of all things. The two-headed turtle. Bazinga. I'll get a good shot of him. Or them, rather. Well, we're about to go downstairs, so we'll see you then. Greetings and salutations. I am the Ghoulfather, at your service. And joining me today, the infamous Calvin Von Crush, tattooist and occult collector, as well as lead vocalist for Room 21. And he has been gracious enough to invite us into his collection. Calvin, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for coming. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, where should we begin?
Well, if you guys want to start over here,
absolutely,
naturally.
Please. Calvin, what can you tell us about these pieces here?
Great question. These pieces here on these cabinets, and as well as these on the other side, are all examples of art created with the help of spirit. The top are called spirit precipitations. These are images directly transmitted to silk handkerchiefs by spirit. This is a spirit slate. Now, this is an image that was created allegedly in complete darkness by a spirit with chalk on the slate.
And approximately how old are these items?
I believe this is from the 1920s. Now this one is very haunting.
Now this got my attention immediately. That's absolutely gorgeous.
Now this is kind of what you would picture a ghost to look like, right?
Absolutely.
Draped in cloth or anything like that. This came from Poland in the 1930s. And
were you able to, is there anything written on this one?
Yeah, this one actually has some translation that I can't decipher because it's in Polish written on the back. Mm-hmm. But all I can tell is the date because the date's written. And of course you can tell the numbers. Numbers are numbers. Mm-hmm. So that one, I just need someone who speaks fluent Polish to be able to translate that for me.
Well, maybe I could help with that.
Oh, do you speak Polish?
No, I don't, but I know a lot of people online.
Oh, good. So this one down here, this is another example of spirit art, and this was created by a spiritualist reverend. So what he would do is he would sit down and he would communicate with somebody's spirit guide, and then he would draw the image of what he believed their spirit guide to look like.
Now, is there any evidence to suggest that these were actually created by spirits?
No, there's little to no evidence that any of these were ever created by spirit. In fact, a lot of my work is to show that there isn't anything to the paranormal, that all of it is either man-made or it's all in the head of the people who
so
are
you're actually I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
So you're actually a skeptic.
I'm a devout skeptic and non-believer.
Well, let's see what's going on over here in this area.
These are some fantastic pieces. A lot of these pieces in this cabinet are pieces that magicians used to simulate the things that spirit mediums were using in their seances. So you'll see that these are ghost puppets.
Oh my.
So at one point in time, this ghost puppet glowed in the dark. And you'll see there's a little hole right here for your finger. So in complete darkness, someone could operate this and make it look like it was a ghost flying
I think
around.
we look like a lovely couple.
So that's that one, and then this one right
And these
here.
were all handmade.
Yes, these were all handmade. And this one is supposed to be the ghost of Harry Houdini.
Now, he was quite into the investigating the paranormal.
He was. And Harry Houdini and me both were of the same mindset. Well, this one's not there real good, but I bet I could pop that off. So we can take a look at him a little better. But at one point in time, this glowed in the dark as well. So this one would have been...
that's just... And I'm so interested in ages. Is this able to date? Can we get to date?
This one I don't have a date on,
Okay.
but if I were to guess, I would say this is probably from the 1930s. Okay.
So it's quite old.
It's quite old, yes. Here, you can even feel the fabric. So at one point in
for
time,
sure.
this was
Absolutely,
painted
yeah.
with luminous paint, and the paint was probably radioactive because that's how they made things glow back in the day.
Wow, Now, how rare is something like that?
A lot of these items are rare and one of a kind.
So this could be one of a kind.
Yeah, I've never seen another one like it. Yeah, so this is a tambourine. This is a spooky little bell. Yeah, these were all things that magicians used.
And would this be something that they would attempt to have the spirits lift?
Yeah,
or move?
so they would usually be in complete darkness, okay? And they would have an accomplice who was wearing all black, or they would either have a prop to make it look like they had a fake hand, and they would be operating it with their other hand.
And this may not even be possible, but
Yeah.
could we put a price on something, let's say the Houdini?
A lot of these items are very priceless, and I will tell you, I have paid quite a bit of money for some
I'm
of
sure
these,
you
yes.
have, but let's say, I would never ask
Yeah,
how much,
yeah.
but suppose someone were to find one of these, what would be a roundabout figure that it might go for?
I would give them a crisp $20 bill if they asked me if I wanted to buy it.
Okay, all right.
I would
then.
always aim low, you know, but it's worth a significant amount of money.
Gotcha.
You know.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You guys remember Ghostbusters, right? Remember the scene at the beginning of
Indeed.
Ghostbusters? So these are the ESP test cards that people use for testing.
Oh, so that's
ESP, yeah.
that's a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I
These
thought
are real
it was
things.
just a bit of
No, it's not just for
tomfoolery.
movies. Yeah, this came from Duke University. So we got that. Here's another example of another ESP set. Here is some more spirit art on this side. Now this is a really cool piece.
Oh my.
This is in the back. This is the piece of spirit art. It was created by this gentleman in the picture. His name is Reverend Jim Fosgate, and these are actually some of the tools that he used to create spirit art.
So the gentleman here used these implements to create that.
Yeah, how
and you,
cool is
and
that?
you managed to collect all of this.
Yeah.
Astonishing.
Yep. Because, you know, it's not just the art itself that is important to me.
It's the story.
It's everything. It's the story, you know. So being able to have the picture of the gentleman who made it and the utensils that made it itself, it just means a lot to me. Now, if you'll notice, like, a lot of the spirit art that you see here, they're all from different cultures. And that's like a real common theme, especially in spiritualism, is they kind of steal bits and pieces from other cultures because they think that other cultures have a greater sense of mysticism to them than what we have.
I've noticed a few Native American.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of sad to me. I think it's a form of cultural appropriation where they're stealing all these identities and images from cultures that, you know, they're doing it as a form of respect, I feel, but I don't think it's their place to be doing so. You know?
And I couldn't, before we leave this lovely area,
Yeah.
I have to ask about this gentleman.
Yeah, this is another piece of spirit art as well.
And what is his story?
Now, this one I don't know, but
He looks evil.
now the cool thing about this is it's signed Reverend and the gentleman's name, who I have a hard time making out, and he's actually named too. So that means that the guy who made this was another spiritualist reverend. And that's very, very common. Spiritualism is an actual religion where people believe that you can communicate with the other side actively.
And just to finish off, what are we seeing up here?
Oh, that's a great question, especially this piece over here. And I'm going to take this down so you can handle it.
Oh, I'd be delighted.
There you go. Take a look at that. So what's that look like to you?
All right, let me It looks like a clock.
It does look like a clock.
It does.
This is in fact
I was right.
a doomsday clock.
Oh, doomsday clock.
The gentleman in this picture, you can see he made a bunch of these, okay? His name is Zebedee Armstrong. Now, Zebedee Armstrong's wife died, and he was very grief-stricken. A couple years after her death, he had a prophetic vision that an angel told him our end of days was coming soon, and it became his obsession to determine when that day was. So he took it upon himself to construct clocks and calendars on anything he could get his hands on. Peanut butter jars, baby seats, mailboxes, anything. He would try and devise a way to come up with some kind of numeric symbology to determine when we were going to die.
And this is one of them?
This is one of them, yes.
My goodness.
And I even have one of his markers as well.
Oh.
As I should.
Of course. We would accept nothing less.
So how cool is that, man? You got to hold a marker that was used to make doomsday
It's
clocks.
incredible to me that you actually have the implements that were used to create the artwork.
Yeah.
As well as photographs of the artists.
Yeah, I think that's important to the history of it all.
Yeah. And
yeah, so
this one right
you'll notice a commonality in a lot of my collection is I collect advertising for palmists and tarot card readers, psychics, anything like that.
this is authentic.
Yeah, these are
everything
authentic.
is.
I try to maintain as authentic pieces as I can. If I ever find out that something's not authentic, I get rid of it.
How it
Yeah.
goes. Where are we now, Calvin?
So this is my collection of spirit trumpets.
I've heard of these.
So spirit trumpets are a spirit communication device used in seances. They're used in a form of physical mediumship called trumpet mediumship. And what would happen is ectoplasm, which is a substance that you've seen, again, back to Ghostbusters. Slimer was made out of ectoplasm, okay? Well, it's not purely fictitious. People believe that it's a substance that can come out of mediums, and what it would do, it would come out of an orifice, their belly button, their nose, their ears, any orifice possible, and any orifice possible, okay, and it would form a voice box, and it would connect to the end of the trumpet, and as the trumpet was floating around the room, it could relay messages from the dead. So you'll notice some of these have different colored bands on them, right?
Yes.
So if you see like these ones are a little reflective, that's because seances are done in little to no light, and you want to be able to see them. So this one's got a glow-in-the-dark ring on it, this one's got a glow-in-the-dark ring on it, and this one, you know.
And are these heavy?
No, go ahead, handle one.
Oh, okay. Oh, so was that done intentionally?
They were done intentionally because they're supposed to float around the room. Yep.
May I try?
Yeah, please.
Greetings and salutations. Oh, it does work.
Yeah, it does work. Go. Now this right here I keep out
That caught my eye.
because this
What hasn't?
is cheesecloth. And this is usually how mediums would fraudulently produce ectoplasm, because it can be balled up and it can be tucked into a number of places. So you can squish this down and it would still produce so much. Like this is a couple feet of it, and you can hide this pretty much anywhere on your person. And the next thing you know, you got feet and feet of ectoplasm.
And that would give people the illusion
Yes.
of ectoplasm.
Absolutely. Yep. There were all kinds of fake materials that they used for ectoplasm. There was one medium who produced a whole hand of meat out of one of her orifices that was supposed to be a materializing hand, but it was actually a cut piece of meat to look like a hand.
And the mind wanders.
Yes, it does. The Wheel of Fortune, that is just a fortune-telling game. Those are some more spirit trumpets down on the bottom.
Now this is quite a collection of these.
Yeah, they're pretty rare.
I've seen one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen quite an ensemble.
Now you've seen over a dozen.
Wow. In one place.
Yep. Now this one's pretty rare. This one is a fiber trumpet. So the fiber trumpets are ones that are made out of essentially a cardboard-like material, and this one was owned by a famous magician named Joseph Dunninger. And Joseph Dunninger, very similar to Houdini, was a skeptic, and he was actually an investigator of fraudulent mediums and psychics.
Were they around during the same time period?
I don't believe they ever really interacted. I think they may have been alive for a little bit at the same time, but Houdini died before Dunninger really came into prominence.
And he did a lot of the other, like the escapes and the death-defying.
He was a mentalist. So
mentalist.
he did magic that was simulating what psychics said they could do, where he could guess numbers you were thinking, make you read passages of a book and guess words that you were reading and things like that.
And of course...
This lovely lady.
And do we have a name?
We do have a name. Her name is Monique. So Monique is a skeleton from the 1920s, and the story that I got with her on this little tag is that she is a murdered sex worker from Paris, France, and she was murdered by another sex worker for some reason.
Sex work is work.
Sex work is work. No shame there at all. But apparently they had some kind of beef, and murder ensued. And we can't really be certain of how she came to be a skeleton and not receive a proper burial. But I do know for a fact that if you couldn't afford a proper burial back in the day, sometimes your body was donated to science. And there's a very real chance that her body may have been skeletonized and assembled by a medical school.
Come, get a shot of Monique, will you? Well, now, and she's authentic. This is a real human skeleton.
Yep. And this is, you can tell by the hardware and by this right here. This is
I was noticing that.
Yeah, it looks like beef jerky, right? That is actually the real mummified cartilage.
See, because I actually attended mortuary science school, and I've never seen one in this condition.
Yeah, she's in pretty good shape.
She really is.
Yep.
Now, these are quite rare to have a
backstory.
A genuine human skeleton with a backstory.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who have skeletons, but to have one with a backstory, and actually a Caucasian skeleton at that too, are pretty rare. A lot of the skeletons that you see in personal collections, you'll find them coming from India or China.
Look, this is the closest I've ever been to a sex worker. Oh, Razor, look, teeth. She loves teeth. Well, she's absolutely gorgeous.
I've actually recently spoken to a dentist about getting her teeth fixed. So this is what happens.
She has issues chewing.
Well, this is what happens with spring-loaded jaws.
Oh my goodness.
People like to pull them down and then they let it go, and it's damaged her teeth and from them clacking together.
Oh dear.
So I've spoken to a dentist who can do some repair work on it and give her a nice pretty set of teeth.
Well, she's absolutely amazing.
She's beautiful as
is. This? Would you consider this your? I mean, you have so much, but would you consider this a focal point?
She's definitely a focal point, and she's a member of the family.
Absolutely.
You know, I plan on having her until the day I die.
Lovely. And behind her, we have this gorgeous.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I found this on Craigslist way back in the day. I believe it was down in Tennessee or Kentucky. I forget. It was down south. And I just happened to have a friend minutes away from where this was being sold. I negotiated a price. He went and picked it up, and he kept it in his garage for a little bit. And his wife was like, "Oh, you don't ever have to get rid of this if you don't want to. I love it." And eventually, I was able to get it transported up to Baltimore, where my friend Nathan transported it up to me. So I bought it, and it was sitting in a garage for a good long while before I even got to see it.
And this is something that back. Are we going back to the 20s again, the 30s?
I don't know where to age this one to. If I had to guess, I would say probably 70s or 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But this is something they would have outside their facility.
This was probably a big sign outside of the front of their house or their facility, wherever they were doing their fortune telling.
Oh, demonologist.
Yep. So this is just a modern piece that a friend of mine made for me.
Okay.
I just think it looks really good there.
It certainly does.
So I'd like to show you some of the cool pieces behind Monique.
Please.
If anyone's ever heard of Robert the Doll, it's a famous haunted doll that's from Florida. I have a replica of him here. This is him right here. He's actually really child-sized, but this is just a small one that you can get from the museum when you visit him down there. It's down in the Florida Keys. So Robert the doll was owned by a small boy named Robert, who named the doll after himself. Okay. Anytime anything went wrong in that boy's life, he said it wasn't me, it was Robert, and he would blame the doll. And eventually that doll kind of took on a life of its own. And to this day, people still claim that if you take pictures of Robert without his permission, bad things happen to you. So the museum still gets letters written to them asking Robert for forgiveness for taking his picture. Okay.
The original doll.
The original doll, yes. Like I said, this is just a replica. Now, the young boy grew up to be a man, okay? And he became a painter, and this is one of his paintings.
Oh my.
Yeah, so this painting was done by Robert Gianotto, the original owner of Robert the doll. That's pretty cool, huh?
That's staggering.
Yep.
And the original doll is still in the museum.
Yes, the original doll is still in the museum.
Well, that would be quite a piece for you if you could.
Wouldn't it, though?
If you could get your little rat claws on that.
If I could.
Oh, and that also is haunting.
Yeah, that's very beautiful, isn't it?
I'm just going to take a quick
Yeah, please.
peek. And was he a prolific artist, or is this?
No, not really. And he just painted scenes from the area where he was from. This is some ruins. I believe it's from the West Indies. He called it the West Indian ruins. Wow. So, yep, that could have been like a Spanish fort or something that was down there. Now, up above it is a really cool piece, too.
I noticed that.
That is actually a sign from outside of a witch doctor's house in Africa.
In Africa?
Yeah, that is right from Africa.
Oh, that's why I'm having trouble reading it.
Yeah. It's in English, but it's very
difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult. But yeah, they say they can fix broken bones, everything like that. And I love the little vulture on
Yes. And of course, that's all hand done.
Yeah, that's all hand done.
Absolutely.
That's a hand done sign.
And we have astrology.
Yep, that's another sign.
Card reading, and this one is gorgeous.
This one is pretty gorgeous. This one actually came from the boardwalk in New Jersey.
Oh.
Yep.
So this is more recent.
Yeah, this is a little bit more recent. I still want to say this is probably from the 70s or 80s, if I had to guess.
Still, there's a bit of age to it, for sure.
I prefer things that are older than me. You know, I try to limit my collecting, or else this place would be overrun with things. So that painting up there
is frightening.
What can you tell is going on in that painting?
Well, I'm going to take a look. It seems like someone is being taken away.
Yeah, by
aliens.
Aliens, you're right.
I'm right again.
And there's a mothership up top, right? Mm-hmm. So the man in the painting, his name is David Huggins. And David Huggins believes he lost his virginity to an alien named Crescent at the age of 17. And he continued to have...
I mean, who doesn't?
Who doesn't,
Who doesn't think
What
that?
a lucky fella. And he...
Are you listening, Monique?
And he continued to have a sexual relation with her up until his 30s. Mm-hmm. And he fathered many hybrid alien children with her. And he paints scenes from his abductions as a form of therapy to kind of get out what he went through. And this is one of them.
It sounds like he had a rather good time.
I don't think he...
Although it doesn't look that way in the photo.
Yeah, so the story goes is that he was being abducted, right? And one day he decides he's going to buy her flowers. So instead of just, you know, what's the syndrome you get? Stockholm syndrome, yeah. So he gets a little Stockholm syndrome.
I'm married, I know all about it.
So he gets a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, decides instead of being a victim, he's going to get her flowers. He gets abducted once again, and the next day he wakes up and the flowers are gone, and the relationship kind of changed after that.
I could have told him flowers don't work.
Yeah.
But it's a disturbing story. Now this thing right here, this piece, what do we have on going on right there?
This piece right here is connected to the items that you see
on this shelf.
Yes.
All right, I'll be quiet.
You probably recognize this shape, right?
I'm going to say it wrong. A planchette.
You said it perfectly.
Oh,
okay.
I'm doing so well.
So this is a planchette, but so are all of these.
Oh.
Yes.
Even this large one.
Even the large one, okay?
I've only seen this.
Right. So the large planchettes that you see with the hole in them, those are actually for pencils. And you'll see that there's wheels on the bottom.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Isn't that ingenious?
Now, believe it or not, these were invented before the Ouija board.
And they would operate on
paper.
Just on paper.
Yep. So you would put these down and you would put your hand on it, and very similar to a Ouija board, it would spell things out or draw a picture and it would communicate, okay? These were invented in 1853, where the Ouija board technically wasn't invented until 1892.
Huh.
Crazy, right?
I didn't know that.
Right, not a lot of people do. And one of the reasons why is because Ouija boards have been so demonized in pop culture, so everybody thinks that the Ouija board is something evil, while these fell to the wayside and never became as popular as the Ouija board.
And these are all, or most, oh my.
Right, so these down here are other devices that work very similar to planchettes and Ouija boards. So this right here, go ahead, check this out. This is similar to a Ouija board, okay? And this is what we call a slide planchette. So it operates on this premise that this is the pointer, okay? And this goes back and forth to spell out your message.
So if you were having some type of a seance, you'd be spelling out words.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how far does this date back?
Oh, this one I think is from the late 1800s, early 1900s.
So this is quite old.
That one's quite old, yeah.
I'm holding such history in my hands right now. I mean, this is absolutely amazing.
Here, I'll let you hold this one too.
All right.
This one I believe is from the 1880s.
Shall I put this here?
Yeah. I'll take that for you. And this one I believe is from the 1880s, so I'd have to
All
double
right.
check.
And you'll have to help me. How is this one?
So this one, the bearings are a
used
little shot on it.
properly? Okay.
But this one works like that. So it would go back and forth.
Oh my.
Yeah.
See, these are actual objects that were used.
Yeah, people believed in them.
and people
Yeah.
believed in it, and they
People
used them
believed they were a
to
form of spirit communication.
speak to the dead or to
Yeah, check it out.
summon. Ooh, there's writing.
Yep, this is Hudson Tuttle's psychograph, and this originally cost $1 back in the day.
I would have paid $1 for that.
Yeah, I would have paid $1 too. I would have bought a couple.
Wow.
Worth significantly more than $1 nowadays.
Again, that's something else I've never seen. Probably never will again.
Well, you're welcome back anytime.
All right, I'll be here tomorrow.
Here, check out these. Dude, all of these are so different than the others, but they all work on the same principles.
Now, this might be odd, but are these from different parts of the world?
Most of these are all from the United States.
Okay.
A lot of the planchettes you see here come from the UK. So this one works like this.
So all different mechanics, same principle.
Yeah, they all just work on... All Ouija boards, planchettes, and devices like this, they work on the same psychological principle called the ideomotor effect, okay? It's your body producing a result when you expect it to happen. But it's a disconnect from your consciousness and your body, okay? It's real science, it's not ghosts. There's no reason why the Ouija board would have been popular for over 100 years if they didn't work. So you're hearing it from me first. Ouija boards really work, but it's not ghosts. It's your own brain.
Now, true believers, what I think many of you have been waiting for, the Ouija wall. Mr. Crush.
Yeah. So Ouija boards, as we were just talking about, have been around since 1892. We actually have some evidence that they may have been around a little bit longer. Oh, the lights were flickering, huh? Could that actually be a spirit?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Could it be bad electric work? Maybe even better.
Perhaps. I'm voting for spirit.
So yeah, Ouija boards have been around since 1892. We may have had some evidence that they've been around sooner. In fact, I have a Ouija board that I'll show you guys in a second that is from the 1850s, okay?
This one, now, I could be incorrect.
Yeah.
Is this one very old?
This one is pretty old. We have no idea how old it is. If I had to guess, I would say 1930s.
Okay.
Yeah. This one I know is from the 1920s. Okay. This one's really cool because this one actually has a little stand on the bottom. And this is the only one in my collection that has a little stand on it, so it sits above the table like that.
Oh my.
Yeah, and there's no device or anything in there that would make somebody operate it. There's no magnets or anything. It's just a little table that they made. So the Ouija board has actually been used to write a number of books. And someone who's come through the Ouija board and wrote 2 different books is Mark Twain. So he wrote one book called Jap Heron, and then he wrote this book too, God Bless You Daughter, by Mildred Burroughs Swanson and Mark Twain. Okay, we believe that there's a good chance it may have actually been this board right here that was used to write this book. This book came from the estate sale of Mildred Burroughs Swanson's next door neighbor. So we don't know if this is the actual board that was used, but there's a good chance.
But it seems highly likely.
Seems highly likely, yes. Pretty cool, huh?
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah.
So there's a very good probability that Mark Twain himself may have used this board.
Very good chance in spirit. Mark Twain
Gotcha.
may have come through. Right?
That board.
But as we've already discussed, it's a psychological process. So the woman communicating with the Ouija board believed she was talking to Mark Twain, and therefore she wrote this whole book. Pretty cool, huh? This handsome board right here,
Very handsome.
is the only Ouija board that was ever produced here in Connecticut, and was actually produced right in Meriden.
And is this wood or metal?
Yeah, this is wood. Now you'll notice this too, how it's got this little hole here. What do you think that hole's for?
Pencil?
For a pencil. Yes, correct. Just like the other planchettes. Good
There
job.
doesn't seem to be much on here.
Yeah, you know what? But this is one of the best designed Ouija boards there is, because it can't slide off like some of the other boards do. Like if you were using a planchette on this one to say goodbye, it would fall right off the board. This one, it's not going to fall off. So good job listening, man. There is a test at the end, and if you fail, you go on display. So.
Oh, I'm ready.
You ready?
I feel very confident. And if I do happen to be on display, I'd like to be next to Monique.
You got it. This is one of my all-time favorite pieces in the collection. Okay?
That looks like a painter's...
It is a painter's palette, but if you get closer, you might want to zoom in, you'll notice in pencil, it's actually a Ouija board.
Oh.
Okay? Now this Ouija board was created by this gentleman in the picture.
And we have the gentleman
Of course we have the gentleman.
Of course we do.
His name is Glenn Renner Smith, and Glenn Renner Smith lived in a town called Lilydale. Lilydale is in upstate New York, and it is a town full of psychic mediums. They all believe they can communicate with the dead, and he was no different. He was also a sign painter, hence the painter's palette, and I believe he painted this sign too. So all of these items are from the 1930s. This is actually a jar of dirt from his grave. I was able to visit his grave, and I brought all 3 items up, and I laid it out, and I took a nice picture of it, you know, paid my respects, and took a little dirt home.
And what we have down here?
This is just another great example of another board. So you keep hearing me say the word Ouija board, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm saying the word Ouija board because I think that's the word that everybody knows the easiest, okay? Not all boards are Ouija boards, but all boards that look like this are talking boards. Ouija is a name brand, just like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, okay? So these are all talking boards, okay? This board right here in the center, this is made by the same company that produced Ouija boards. But there was so much competition for the Ouija board that they made their own competition and sold it for less at the same price as their competitors, so you could still get a Fold brand product at a lesser price than their Ouija board. They didn't want to sell their own board for less, but they made their own
They
competition.
made their own competition.
Now, these boards were made in less quantities than the Ouija board, so they're more rare nowadays, and they're worth more than a regular Ouija board because so few of them were made, even though they were sold at a lower price than the actual Ouija board back in the day.
And it seems everywhere I look, I see something else new and exciting.
Yeah.
What is this lovely item?
This right here is the planchette.
For that?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is just a pedestal for it.
Yeah, that's just a pedestal.
That's so beautiful.
Isn't it?
So some of them were decorative.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
weren't all the classic shape.
Correct. I mean, look
right.
at this one.
That
one's beautiful.
This one I think might be my favorite.
Yeah, and that's actually really glass too.
And were many of them glass, or did most of them just have drilled holes?
A lot of them are just drilled holes.
Just drilled holes.
Some of them are plastic, but the real fancy ones, you got real pieces of glass.